Yeah. Sometimes you need somebody to. I'm sorry, Maria. Sometimes you just need somebody to dial that number with you or text that number with you, sit by you while you do it.
Exactly. Well, alone. And, it's interesting that you mentioned a whole bunch of things like kindness and alone and things like that. And those are actually titles of our episodes.
Good.
Yes.
And
one thing that I was going to say is that, you're so right, Leo. Like, I think it would be so great if there was more positivity on all of these social media. Look, because the kids need, more positivity. And I can tell you, like, sometimes I have shared the podcast with some of my students. I haven't shared it with all of them because sometimes I feel like it's got to be the right moment. I have to be able to provide them with the right episode if I want them to actually take the time to listen to it, because a lot of times, you can suggest something, but if it doesn't make sense to them at that moment, they're just going to go with what they feel comfortable, which a lot of times is negativity.
Right.
And I will tell you, I had a student who was going through a difficult time, and I said, I told him, I'm here for you. We can talk about it. I said, but it was going to be the weekend. It was going to be a long weekend.
Right.
And he told me, he said, Miss, I hate that we don't have school on Monday, because that's one more day that I won't see you. I won't have someone to talk to. And I told him,
lifeline.
I think so. And these are things that, you touch my heart, because sometimes I don't realize how important I might be to a person,
Right.
And I told
that is so well said, Maria. That's true.
Yes.
Yes.
You never know how important you might be to another person.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. And so I shared, I told him, I want you to listen to, I said, are you familiar with podcasts? And he's like, no, not really. What is that?
Right.
And so I explained it to him. And I didn't even tell him I was on it.
Right.
I did not tell him I was on it. I just said, well, there's an episode on, when you feeling alone.
Right.
And so I gave him the exact episode. I actually sent it to him through, because CISD uses, the school uses Remind.
Right.
And so I sent it through the Remind so that he could have access to that particular episode. And he responded. He responded. Wow. He was like, Miss, is that your voice? Is that you on this podcast? And then I said, I think I didn't respond. And then he said he started commenting on the stuff that he was listening to on that podcast. I was like, oh my God, he's actually listening to it.
Yes.
And he's given me, not only has he given me great feedback on it, but he's shared it with a lot of our other students.
Oh, great.
So to me, that's
so cool.
Yes.
And sometimes it has to come from them, it has to come from people their own age in order for it to like kind of click or make sense, or for them to want to have that intention of listening to something other than what they're so used to.
Right.
Yes.
And they're looking for it. See, the problem is that people think that they know kids, but Maria and Cindy, this, we kind of learned that they want a conversation. I mean, they tell you kids are not, kids don't say good morning or anything. They would say good morning to us, right, Maria? They would greet us.
Yeah.
So it's, there's a stereotype with teens. There's a stereotype with youth. And I think that we're guilty as adults, as people who have agencies, nonprofit agencies, and school, where you're thinking for these kids instead of asking them what they need. And they make too many assumptions.
Yes.
Too many assumptions.
Yes. I'm going to use that.
Yes. See, we're the real podcast of Dallas, and we're bringing you information that no one else is brave enough to bring you.
I mean, I feel like I go in circles,
Right.
where I because I'm like, it's great that we have a curriculum that covers 10 sessions of topics, but there is like so much need. There's so much discussion that needs to be happening, and it's daily, and it needs to be beyond academics in the classroom. It's got to cover body image and self-image and confidence, and it's got to cover eating disorders
Right.
and everything. And we need to normalize what kids are going through so that they know you are not alone.
Exactly.
Like this 13-year-old who is afraid
Yes.
to get out of bed, can't even do it. She is not alone. There are
Right.
tons of 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 12. I mean, there are people who are going through that same
Yes.
thing. And if you could get them in a room where they could express that or text that to each other, oh my gosh, the power in
Yes.
that.
And,
Find out, you know what? You're not a freak.
right.
You have feelings. You have emotions. We all have emotions.
Yes.
And sometimes we get bit by a negative emotion and we just can't shake it.
Right.
And we need that
It-
support.
And they need to know too. Like one of the things that I tell my students all the time: hey, you're what you're feeling is normal. If you're
Right, there you
angry,
go.
it's normal to feel angry. It's normal for you to feel mad, to feel afraid.
Right.
And sometimes I tell them, you just have to learn. You just have to understand that it's normal. And there is a process. There is a process, and sometimes in order to get past through the process of these emotions is being able to talk to the person that is making you feel these certain feelings and these emotions. And I think the saddest thing that I hear from a lot of my students is that they don't have a communication with their parents, or they try to have these conversations and their parents are not open to having these
Right.
conversations.
Right.
Yes. And
So it's
go ahead.
go ahead, Leo.
Well, what I was going to say is
No, you
just going back to the conversation, communication, and it's not that difficult. The problem is that we just have become too busy. We become too scared. We become too isolated. There's a lot of reasons. But the truth is that, just a simple conversation will help. We're missing that human contact, and whatever this
Right.
is, whatever we're going through, I think adults that are around, please don't think for the kids. Please don't think for them. Ask them. Don't assume. Ask them. Don't assume that you have the answers. Ask them. Because Cindy, you were saying something about curriculums, and you were saying, and right now kids don't need to be spoken to. They need to be spoken with. Don't talk to a
Yes.
kid. Talk with a kid. Especially now.
Well, I think it's like if parents a lot of times don't talk to their kids, I think,
Right.
because they don't want to hear what their kid's going to say. And so I'll use the example, if your child is coming out or something
Right.
and you don't want to hear that, don't tell your child they're wrong.
Right.
Have a conversation, just like you're saying.
Yes.
Like, let there be a dialogue.
Right.
Because as soon as you tell your child that they're wrong for something, I mean, it's just the wall goes up. They're going to stop listening
Yes.
to you. So it's how you have those conversations, and it's making sure that you let the child know that you're hearing, even if your answer is always no. And I've said that, like, make sure, if your answer is not changing, at least let them know that you hear them and you respect their feelings, know.
Right.
And I always say that with Genevieve. Like she said, forever, I do not like school. I want to be homeschooled. And I said, that's not going to happen because your dad has to be on the same page as me. And then this has worked out beautifully because now she is homeschooled. She loves it. She's thriving. Everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yes.
Yes, everybody's different.
Yeah, and we have
everybody's different, and I think a lot of times we forget that everybody's different and that everybody has their own way of learning. And a lot of times, grown-ups, who have certain types of authorities, whether they're teachers or, a parent, it's like they assume or they have these expectations that they should all be learning the same way and they should all be following like the same procedure of the same direction. And in reality, it's impossible because everyone has their own way of learning things.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of times youth don't ask for help because they're afraid that they'll look stupid or seem stupid.
Right.
And if you just have the courage to ask, you might find out from an adult that, hey, I feel that way. I felt that way, and I still struggle with that.
Yes.
You're not alone.
Right.
Yes, they're not alone.
Yeah.
And they need to hear that too. I think when it comes to, like, Cindy, you mentioned, being kind. When I think of kind, I also think about being considerate. And I think that that's one thing that is missing. A lot of times it's like, hey, us as grown-ups need to be able to accept, our own struggles and share that with the kids. If we're working with kids, if we're parents, because they need to be able to hear, hey, we went through this when we were your age, and look at us now.
Right.
It's just the process of taking the time for yourself to see how it is that you're gonna be able to comprehend something, whether it's reading, writing, math, whatever it is.
Well, that's why I always think that, because there was so much anxiety in me and stress just because I was so introverted and shy when I was a kid that I prefer adulthood.
Yeah.
Some adults will tell you that they prefer childhood, like they would love to be a child again. Right. And for a lot of you, it will get easier, once you become an adult and you learn a little bit of confidence. And but you have to start taking little steps today, and they can be tiny steps that work on your insides. Yeah. Tell yourself that you're okay. Tell yourself that you believe in yourself, and the way will be shown. It will.
And I think now, because, you could be talking to kids and you could be talking to adults. I think we're on the same boat because, that fear is real for adults and for kids, for teens.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunate that a lot of the teens now don't have they don't have the opportunities that we had as teens to experience things. I mean, they don't have prom. They're not going to have school dances and things like that. And adults, there's some adults that, their job, may not last, or they may have to switch jobs or quit a job.
Right.
I mean, it's just kind of chaotic, but now's the time where I think that we should pull together. And if you see a family struggling, help out if you can, even just emotional support. I think that emotional support is missing. Maria, that little girl that you talked about, there's got to be emotional support there. I think a lot of our kids are lacking that.
Yes, I totally agree. And when I was told of the story, it just kind of blew my mind, because I'm thinking, oh my God, how are their parents, dealing with it, and not. I mean, I don't know. From my understanding, this little girl hasn't been to school at all this school year.
Right.
That means that she's missed like a whole semester. Yeah. And like I said, my plan is to go out there and visit her, because I don't know who this little girl is. I've never met her.
Right.
I do know that she lives near where I live, so I'm going to take the time to do that so that I can gather enough information so I can contact someone at school and make sure that someone is able to follow up and give her the help that she needs, because she is going to need help, and her family is going to need help too.
Yeah.
Well, and if they can get her even an online university, until she gets the courage to, not an online university, online school, until she gets the courage to do that, or, a homeschool network like Leo's kids did that for a while, where you have a smaller group of students. Yeah.
And thank you so much for saying. You know what? You just reminded me. There are some schools out there that are online school only.
Yes.
So that could be something that that I can help them look into. That is something that they're wanting to do. But definitely, yes, And I'll keep you guys posted on that because my plan is to go out there tomorrow.
Yeah. Because she's not the only one. People are listening and they're like,
No,
this little girl. Well, the thing is that, people have heard